Minnesotans throw away 15,000 tons of garbage every day, or an average of about 6 pounds per resident. Where to dispose of that waste has always been a question. In the old days, we just dumped it into the nearest ravine or pit. Unregulated dumps were found in every community. But as Minnesota's population grew, we needed better solutions for waste disposal. In 1969, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency issued its first permit for what was called sanitary landfills. Back then, these landfills were state-of-the-art. But we found that unlined landfills created problems of their own. As the waste in these landfills decompose, they can release contaminants into our groundwater. This led to polluted drinking water around many landfills. And around some landfills that had been closed, methane gas pushed through the soil into nearby basements, creating explosion hazards. These closed landfills needed to be cleaned up, and the Superfund program was the only option available. By the 1990s, there were more than 60 landfills on state and federal Superfund lists waiting for cleanup. In Superfund sites, the polluter usually pays. But at a landfill, we are the polluters.
We approached it by using federal and state Superfund, which pretty much chased people around that could be tied to the landfill and said, you're part of the solution and you're going to help pay for it.
How do you collect cleanup costs from thousands of individual businesses and citizens? With landfills, it became clear that you don't.
The local florist shop, the local body shop, the local garage, the local restaurants, the local bars, and every one of them received a pay us $8,000 now or we're going after you for a lot more later.
Larger companies named as responsible parties sued their insurance companies, and in turn, the insurers went after small business owners. The lawyers were happy, but no one else was.
A lot of landfills, especially closed landfills, there were not operators that had the financial wherewithal to address issues, and you had a multitude of sources of folks that could be considered responsible parties, but to actually get to those folks and get them to cooperate was very difficult.
If we were going to clean up leaking landfills, we needed something besides Superfund.
We had gone to the legislature 3 years in a row asking for an alternative way to deal with these sites. And we were telling them that if they don't, then this disaster is going to happen, financial disaster that will go into Main Street.
The solution required bold action.
Got all the people together, threw out ideas, and out of that came the later program, the Closed Landfill Program, which made me a believer in sausage because it took a lot of people, a lot of expert knowledge, whether it was business, environmental, engineering, law.
Closed landfills were deemed a problem that affected all of society, so the state assumed responsibility for cleaning them up and maintaining them. This had never been done before anywhere in the country. Legislators were solidly behind the idea, and so were business owners, who would no longer have to deal with lawyers hounding them for money because they'd been named responsible parties in a Superfund cleanup. One key to establishing the program was something called insurance recovery. The state sued the insurers of the responsible parties and recovered $96 million for the cleanup. This money became an important basis for funding the newly established Closed Landfill Program. During the 1990s, the program started cleaning up old closed landfills that were leaking gas and contaminating groundwater. Some landfills were dug up, and the waste was moved to other landfills that were covered with engineered caps. Eroding caps were repaired and upgraded, gas collection systems were installed, and pipes were placed to collect leachate, the liquid from decomposing waste that can leak into groundwater at some sites. Other landfills were consolidated into smaller footprints and capped.
Over the years in our construction projects, we've brought a lot of sites up to current standards in terms of cover. We've added groundwater pump-out systems. We've added a number of active gas collection systems. We have pulled out the equivalent of more than 100 barrels worth of hazardous waste out of our landfills as a result of construction activities. We're destroying currently over 28 million pounds of methane a year from our active gas systems.
Today, the program includes 109 closed landfills where the state has assumed responsibility for their long-term care and maintenance. 40 of the landfills are actually owned by the state. As the MPCA finishes with the larger cleanups of these closed landfills, we are starting to focus on long-term care and on beneficial reuse of the sites where possible. For example, a 40-kilowatt solar array will be installed at 2 closed landfills this winter. Eventually, the state will sell power from these projects back to the grid. There are a few closed landfills that haven't come into the program yet. The handful that are still operating will need to be addressed when they cease operations. The program has been very successful at dealing with a problem that affects all of us.
The fact that this passed and was able to be implemented in short order speaks volumes to the legislature's intent and the fact that it was a good law.
Hats off to the visionary legislators and waste planners who had the foresight and drive to create the Closed Landfill Program in Minnesota.